He-Yun stared out of the tall window at the three moons hanging in the night sky. The view from the imperial palace showed the sprawling city of Hansom Prime below, its lights twinkling like fallen stars. She pressed her hand against the cool glass and sighed. Only 1 week had passed since her mother's death, and now the crown of the galactic celestial empire sat heavy on her 16-year-old head. "Your Majesty," a soft voice called from behind her. "The Imperial Council awaits." He-Yun turned to face her handmaiden. "Thank you, Mi-Ray. I will be there shortly." The young Empress smoothed down her formal blue robes and straightened her back. The council chamber was on the other side of the palace, and each step there felt like walking to her own execution. 6 old men rose from their seats when He-Yun entered the grand chamber. At the head of the table stood Lord Regent Du-Yun, a tall man with gray hair and cold eyes. "Your Imperial Majesty honors us with her presence," he said with a bow that seemed too shallow to show true respect. He-Yun took her seat at the table. "What matters need our attention today, Lord Regent?" Du-Yun smiled thinly. "Nothing that should trouble your young mind, Majesty. The Council has prepared these documents for your signature. Simply routine matters." He slid several tablets toward her. He-Yun glanced at them, seeing complex reports about trade agreements and military deployments. Words swam before her eyes, filled with terms she barely understood. "I would like time to read them properly," she said. "Of course," Du-Yun replied with a tight smile. "But these are urgent matters that cannot wait. Your mother trusted the council to handle such details. As should you." One by one, He-Yun signed the tablets, feeling the weight of decisions she didn't fully understand. When the meeting ended, she felt empty and useless. Later that evening, He-Yun slipped away from her guards and wandered into the Imperial Gardens. Here, at least, she could breathe without someone watching her every move. The garden's artificial atmosphere created a perfect spring day, despite the harsh winter outside the palace shields. She found a small bench hidden behind a row of flowering trees and sat down. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes. "Mother," she whispered, "how did you do this? How am I supposed to rule when they treat me like a child?" A sudden clank from behind the garden wall startled her. He-Yun froze, listening. Another metallic sound, followed by a quiet curse. Curious, she moved toward the sound and discovered a small maintenance door hidden among the vines. The door stood slightly open. He-Yun peered through the gap and saw a narrow passage lined with pipes and wires. Making sure no guards were nearby, she slipped through the door. The passage was dimly lit and smelled of oil and metal. He-Yun followed it until she heard someone working ahead. Turning a corner, she saw a young man kneeling before an open panel, tools spread around him. He was dressed in simple gray workwear, his hands skilled as they repaired something inside the wall. He was so focused that he didn't notice her until she accidentally kicked a small tool. The young man jumped to his feet, his eyes wide with shock. He began, then saw her robes and immediately dropped to his knees. "Your Imperial Majesty, forgive me, I didn't realize." "Please, stand up," He-Yun said quickly. "What's your name?" He hesitated before answering. "Tao, Your Majesty." He-Yun noticed something strange about his features, slightly different from the people of the Empire. Then she realized he was human. Humans rarely worked in the palace, and never near Imperial family members. "You're human," she said, curious rather than accusing. Tao tensed. "Yes, Your Majesty. I maintain the environmental systems. I've never spoken to a human before," He-Yun admitted. Tao seemed unsure how to respond. "I should report back to my supervisor, Your Majesty. It's forbidden for someone like me to speak with you." "Forbidden by whom?" He-Yun asked, suddenly irritated by yet another rule controlling her life. "Imperial law, Your Majesty." He-Yun looked at the human's face, open, honest, and frightened. For the first time in days, she felt something other than sadness or fear. She felt curious. "Tell me, Tao," she said, sitting down on a nearby pipe. What exactly do you do here in the palace? His eyes darted nervously toward the exit, but something in her expression made him stay. 3 days passed before Yun could slip away from her guards again. She counted the hours, eager to return to the hidden door in the garden wall. When she finally escaped her royal duties, she hurried along the garden path, checking twice to make sure no one followed. The maintenance door was closed this time. Yun pushed it gently, relieved when it opened. The narrow passage seemed darker than before, but she moved forward, remembering the way to where she had met Tayo. He wasn't there. Yun felt a strange disappointment. She had thought about the human engineer more than she cared to admit. Something about his direct manner and the way he looked at her, not as an empress, but as a person, had stayed with her. "You came back," said a voice behind her. Yun turned quickly. Tayo stood in a connecting passage, tools hanging from his belt. He looked surprised but not unhappy to see her. "I wanted to continue our conversation," Yun said, "if you're not too busy." Tayo glanced around nervously. "It's not safe here, Your Majesty, if we're caught." "Then we won't get caught," Yun said with new confidence. "Is there somewhere else we can talk?" Tayo hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me." He led her deeper into the maintenance tunnels, through narrow paths where pipes hissed with steam and control panels blinked with colored lights. Finally, they reached a small room filled with spare parts and old equipment. "This is my workshop," Tayo explained. "No one comes here except me." Yun looked around with interest. The room was nothing like the grand spaces of the palace, but it felt real and honest. "It's perfect," she said. They sat on 2 metal crates. At first, neither spoke, the silence awkward between them. "Tell me about being human," Yun finally said. Tayo looked up, surprised by the direct question. "What do you want to know, Your Majesty?" "Everything. And please, when we're alone, call me Yun." Tayo smiled for the first time. "I can try, but it feels wrong." "Being Empress feels wrong too, sometimes," Yun admitted. Tayo nodded slowly. "I understand feeling out of place." He took a deep breath. "Humans live mostly in the outer sectors. We work the jobs others don't want. My family has been on HFY Prime for 3 generations, which is rare. Most humans get sent to the mining colonies or farming worlds." "But why?" Yun asked. "The books I've read say humans join the Empire freely." A shadow crossed Tayo's face. "That's not how the story is told among my people." Yun leaned forward. "Tell me." "My grandmother said Earth was conquered, not welcomed. The history was changed afterward." Yun frowned. "That can't be true. The Imperial records." "Records can be changed," Tayo said quietly. "But I shouldn't speak of such things." Yun wanted to ask more, but Tayo looked nervous. She changed the subject. "How did you become an engineer?" His face brightened. "I've always been good with machines. I was lucky. An overseer noticed and got me special training. Most humans don't get such chances." They talked for hours. Tayo told her about growing up in the human quarter, about festivals and foods Yun had never heard of. She told him about life in the palace, the pressure of being Empress, and her fears about ruling properly. "I should return," Yun said finally, realizing how much time had passed. "The guards will be looking for me." "When will I see you again?" Tayo asked, then looked down, embarrassed by his boldness. "Soon," Yun promised. "I'll find a way." Over the next weeks, they met whenever Yun could escape her duties. Each time, Tayo showed her more of the hidden parts of the palace, places no empress had ever seen. Through air ducts, they watched council meetings Yun wasn't invited to. Through observation panels, they saw how servants and guards lived and talked when imperial eyes weren't watching. One day, as they sat in their secret workshop, Yun said, "You've shown me more of my palace in 2 weeks than I've seen in my whole life." "Sometimes you need to look from the bottom to see the truth," Teo said. He-Yun nodded. And what is the truth about my empire, Teo? Before he could answer, a distant alarm sounded. Teo jumped to his feet. What is it? He-Yun asked. Security sweep, he whispered. Someone knows. This way, Teo whispered, grabbing He-Yun's hand. He pulled her through a narrow passage she hadn't seen before. The alarm continued to echo through the maintenance tunnels. They squeezed through a tight opening behind a large pipe. Teo pressed his finger to his lips, signaling silence. Seconds later, boots stomped past their hiding place. Security forces, Teo mouthed silently. They waited in the darkness, hardly breathing, until the sounds faded. He-Yun realized she was still holding Teo's hand and quickly let go. We need to get you back to the royal quarters, Teo said softly. They might be looking for you. He-Yun nodded. But why the alarm? What's happening? Teo's face grew serious. News from the outer systems. There's been an incident. They moved carefully through the tunnels until they reached a small vent overlooking the security station. Below them, officers rushed about while screens displayed images of destruction. He-Yun could see buildings on fire and Imperial troops moving through streets. That's HFY, Teo whispered. A mining colony. Mostly humans work there. He-Yun stared at the screens. What happened? Uprising. The workers rebelled against the mine overseers. He-Yun felt cold. Why would they do that? Teo didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quiet. The conditions there are not good. 16-hour workdays, poor food, bad air. Many get sick. I didn't know, He-Yun said. Most people in the palace don't. A new face appeared on the main screen. Imperial Security Director Jiho. His hard face looked angry as he spoke to the officers. Find the Empress immediately. She must be protected at all times. This human rebellion could spread. He-Yun turned to Teo. I need to go. He nodded and led her through a series of passages until they reached a hidden door that opened into her private chambers. Be careful, he warned before disappearing back into the wall. An hour later, He-Yun sat in the council chamber, listening to reports about the rebellion on HFY. Lord Regent Du-Yun paced the floor while Security Director Jiho displayed images of the uprising. The situation is under control, Your Majesty, Jiho said. The rebellion has been crushed. The leaders are being questioned. Questioned? He-Yun asked. Standard procedures, Du-Yun cut in smoothly. Nothing for your concern. He-Yun remembered the burning buildings. How many died? The council members exchanged glances. Only a few troublemakers, Du-Yun said. Human workers can be difficult. I want exact numbers, He-Yun insisted, a new firmness in her voice. Jiho looked surprised but answered. 28 dead, over 100 injured. And Imperial troops. 3 injuries, no deaths. He-Yun tried to keep her face calm. What were they fighting for? They are ungrateful, another council member said. The Empire provides them with jobs, housing, food. What were their demands? He-Yun repeated. Jiho consulted his tablet. Better working conditions, more food rations, medical care. He looked up. Ridiculous requests, considering their status. Their status as humans or as citizens of the Empire? He-Yun asked quietly. The room fell silent. Du-Yun stared at her with narrowed eyes. Your Majesty seems unusually concerned about human affairs, he said carefully. These are minor issues that the council can handle. Nothing in my empire is minor, He-Yun replied. I want a full report on working conditions in all mining colonies. Du-Yun's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course, Your Majesty. Now shall we discuss the lunar festival preparations? Your public appearance will be. After I review the report, He-Yun interrupted. That night, He-Yun couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the burning buildings, imagining the people inside them. When a soft tap came from the hidden door in her wall, She rushed to open it. Tayo slipped into her room, looking worried. "You shouldn't be here," Hei-yun whispered. "It's too dangerous." "I had to warn you," he said. "The security director has ordered increased surveillance on you. There are rumors you sympathize with humans. I asked questions. That's all." Tayo stepped closer. "There's something I need to tell you. Something important." He took a deep breath. "The Qian-4 uprising wasn't random. It's part of something bigger." "What do you mean?" "There's a movement among humans. They call themselves the Earthborn Coalition. They fight for equality, for truth." Hei-yun stared at him. "Are you part of this coalition?" Tayo looked away. "My sister is. That's how I know. And the truth they fight for. About Earth. About your mother. About everything." "What about my mother?" Hei-yun asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tayo looked around nervously. "Not here. It's not safe." He pulled a small device from his pocket and placed it on the floor. It hummed softly. "This will block listening devices, but not for long." "The Imperial Archives," Hei-yun said suddenly. "We need to go there." "Those are heavily guarded," Tayo warned. "Not the private royal section. Only I can access it." They moved through the hidden passages, avoiding the palace guards who now patrolled in greater numbers. The main archive room was empty at this late hour. Hei-yun pressed her palm against a scanner, and a hidden door slid open. "My mother showed me this place once," Hei-yun explained as they entered. "She said a true ruler must know the real history, not just the official one." The small room was lined with old books and data crystals. Hei-yun went to a shelf and took down a crystal marked with her mother's seal. "Help me with this," she said, moving to a reader in the center of the room. They placed the crystal in the machine. Images appeared in the air above it. Documents, pictures, and videos. Hei-yun touched one file labeled Earth Integration. The image that appeared showed a burning city. People ran from soldiers in imperial uniforms. A voice, Hei-yun recognized it as her mother's, spoke over the images. "The true history of Earth's fall," the voice said. "Not conquest, but invasion. Not integration, but subjugation. A truth the Empire must one day face." Hei-yun watched in shock as the images showed imperial ships attacking Earth cities. The official history had always claimed that humans had willingly joined the Empire after their world faced environmental collapse. "She knew," Hei-yun whispered. "My mother knew the truth." Tayo stood silent, his face tight with emotion as he watched the history of his people. Hei-yun opened another file labeled Imperial Reforms. It contained plans for changing human status in the Empire, equal rights, representation in government, freedom to travel between worlds. "These are dated 1 week before she died," Hei-yun said, her voice shaking. The last file was simply labeled Warning. Hei-yun hesitated before touching it. Her mother's face appeared, looking tired and afraid. "Hei-yun, if you are watching this, I am gone. Trust no one on the council, especially not Du-yun. He opposes all reforms. He believes in the old ways, humans as servants, other species as subjects. He will not allow change." Her mother leaned closer to the camera. "My death will not be an accident, daughter. Be careful. Find allies. The truth must be known." The image disappeared. Hei-yun stood frozen. "She was murdered," she whispered, "because she wanted to help humans." Tayo touched her shoulder gently. "Now you understand what the Earthborn Coalition fights for." The door to the archive suddenly slid open. Security Director Jaho stood there with 4 guards, their weapons drawn. "Your Majesty," Jaho said coldly, "you should not be here. And certainly not with this." He pointed at Tayo. "Director Jaho," Hei-yun said, trying to sound calm, "I am simply reviewing historical records. With a human technician, one who has access to secret passages." Jaho stepped closer. "One whose sister is a known rebel." Hei-yun felt cold. They knew about Tayo's sister. They had been watching him. Lord Regent Du Yun is most concerned about your safety, Jai-ho continued. He fears you have been influenced by dangerous ideas. He nodded to the guards. Take the human for questioning. Escort Her Majesty to her chambers. No, He-yun said firmly. I am your Empress. You do not give orders in my presence. Jai-ho smiled thinly. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but Lord Regent Du Yun has declared a state of emergency due to the human rebellions. For your protection, you are to remain in your chambers until the danger has passed. This is treason, He-yun said, her voice rising. This is protection, Jai-ho replied as the guards moved forward. Two grabbed Tae-yo roughly. He-yun, Tae-yo called out as they dragged him away. It was the first time he had used just her name in front of others. You will address Her Majesty properly, human, Jai-ho snapped, striking Tae-yo across the face. Stop this, He-yun shouted, but the guards were already taking her in the opposite direction, back toward her chambers, now a prison. As they marched her down the corridor, He-yun saw Lord Regent Du Yun waiting ahead, a cold smile on his face. Your mother was difficult too, he said quietly as she passed. I had hoped you would be easier to control. He-yun paced her royal chambers, which now felt like a prison. Two guards stood outside her door. 3 days had passed since she had been separated from Tae-yo. 3 days with no news of him. She feared the worst. Her handmaiden Mi-rae entered with a tray of food. Any news? He-yun whispered as Mi-rae set down the tray. Mi-rae shook her head slightly. Then she slipped a small piece of paper under the plate. He-yun's heart jumped, but she kept her face calm. When Mi-rae left, He-yun quickly read the note. Midnight. Be ready. That night, He-yun pretended to sleep while watching the clock. At exactly midnight, she heard a soft clicking sound from the wall beside her bed. A small section slid open, revealing a dark space behind. Quickly, whispered a voice. It wasn't Tae-yo. He-yun hesitated, then crawled through the opening. She found herself in a narrow passage with a young woman holding a light. The woman looked like Tae-yo. I'm Su-min, the woman said. Tae-yo's sister. Follow me. They moved quickly through the passage. Where is Tae-yo? He-yun asked. Getting the ship ready. We have little time. They reached a wider tunnel where an old service cart waited. Su-min motioned for He-yun to get inside and covered her with a tarp. Stay quiet, she warned. The cart moved through the maintenance tunnels, stopping several times when voices came near. Finally, it stopped completely, and the tarp was pulled away. Tae-yo stood there, his face bruised but his eyes bright with relief. You're safe, he said. They were in a small hangar for maintenance vehicles. A small ship sat ready, its engines humming quietly. This will take us off-planet, Tae-yo explained. We must hurry. Off-planet? He-yun asked. But I can't leave. I'm the Empress. An Empress in a prison cannot rule, Su-min said. The council will claim you're ill or confused. They'll rule in your name and continue their cruelty. He-yun knew she was right. Where will we go? To the outer systems, Tae-yo said, where the coalition is strongest. They boarded the small ship. Tae-yo took the controls while Su-min monitored communications. He-yun watched through a window as the palace grew smaller below them. Her home. Her prison. Imperial patrol coming in fast, Su-min warned. They know. The ship shook as Tae-yo pushed it to full speed. He-yun saw Imperial ships rising from the palace grounds. They're gaining on us, Su-min said. Tae-yo's hands moved quickly over the controls, jumping to light speed in 5 seconds. The ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed. They hit us, Su-min shouted. Hold on. Tae-yo called, pulling back on a lever. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped to light speed, leaving the Imperial capital behind. But damage had been done. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Engine damage, Tae-yo reported grimly. We can't stay at light speed. The ship dropped back to normal space. Through the window, He-yun saw a small blue-green planet. Yang 3, Su-min said. We can hide there. More alarms blared. Smoke filled the cockpit. We're losing control, Teo said, fighting with the steering. Braced for crash landing. The ship tore through the planet's atmosphere, shaking violently. He-yun held onto her seat, terrified. The ground rushed up to meet them. Teo managed to level the ship somewhat before it hit, skidding across an open field and finally coming to rest in a forest. Everyone all right? Teo asked, coughing in the smoke. He-yun nodded, though her body ached from the impact. Su-min was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, but seemed otherwise fine. They stumbled from the smoking ship into the fresh air. He-yun had never been on any planet other than the imperial capital. The air smelled different, rich and earthy. Birds called in the trees around them. Where are we exactly? She asked. Farming region, Su-min said. Mostly human workers. We'll find help here. They walked for hours through fields and forests, avoiding the main roads. He-yun's fine palace shoes fell apart quickly. Her feet hurt, but she didn't complain. Her royal robes gathered dirt and tears, making her look less like an empress with each step. As night fell, they saw lights ahead, a small settlement of simple houses. My friend lives here, Su-min said. She'll help us. He-yun suddenly stopped. Why are you both risking so much to help me? I'm part of the family that enslaved your people. Teo turned to her. Because you want to change things, and because you saw us as people, not servants. He held out his hand. After a moment, He-yun took it. They walked toward the lights together. The small house at the edge of the settlement looked like all the others, simple, made of local wood and stone. But inside, He-yun found something unexpected. Welcome to Resistance Station Y37, Su-min said as they entered. What looked like a normal home from outside was actually a busy command center underneath. When a section of floor slid away, they descended into a large underground room filled with people working at computer stations. Maps of the Empire glowed on wall screens. Communication equipment hummed. Everyone stopped and stared when He-yun entered. Whispers filled the room. The Empress. She's just a girl. Why is she here? A tall man stepped forward, his face hard with suspicion. Su-min, explain this, he demanded, pointing at He-yun. Junho, this is Empress He-yun, Su-min replied calmly. She discovered the truth about her mother's death and the council's betrayal. She's an ally. Junho's eyes narrowed. An ally? Her family has kept humans as second-class citizens for generations. He-yun stepped forward. I am not my ancestors. I want to change things. Pretty words, Junho scoffed. But words are easy. She risked her life to escape with us, Teo said. The council would have kept her prisoner and ruled in her name. Junho didn't look convinced, but a woman with gray hair stepped forward. Let her speak, she said. I want to hear what the Empress has to say. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to He-yun. She had never felt so small, so judged. I believed the lies I was taught. He-yun began simply. I thought humans joined the Empire willingly. I thought everyone was treated fairly. She took a deep breath. I was wrong. My mother knew the truth and wanted to change things. They killed her for it. She looked around the room, meeting their eyes. I am the Empress, but I need your help. I cannot fight the council alone. The gray-haired woman studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I am Yuna, leader of this cell. You may stay, for now. In the days that followed, He-yun saw a side of her empire she had never known. The resistance base received reports from human settlements across many worlds. She learned of labor camps where humans worked until they died. She saw images of children in factories, of sick people denied medicine. But she also saw human strength and cleverness. In a workshop area, resistance members showed her technology the Empire had banned. Communication devices that couldn't be tracked, weapons that could disable Imperial ships without destroying them, medical treatments developed in secret. Humans are good at making things, Teo explained as he showed her around. The Empire fears what we might create, so they limit our education and tools. Yet you created all this anyway, Heiyun said, impressed. Teo smiled. When people must survive, they become very creative. One evening, Heiyun sat with the resistance leaders as they discussed their next moves. A young man rushed in with news. Imperial forces are searching every settlement on Yang 3, he reported. They're looking for the Empress. Yuna turned to Heiyun. Lord Regent Du Yun has announced that you were kidnapped by human terrorists. The official story says we're holding you hostage. No one will believe that, Heiyun said. Many will, Junho replied grimly. Most people in the Empire never see you. They only hear what the council tells them. Heiyun thought for a moment. Then I need to speak to them directly. All of them. Impossible, Junho said. Imperial communications are completely controlled. Not completely, said a quiet voice. A small woman named Min stepped forward. She rarely spoke at meetings. I've been working on something. A way to bypass Imperial communication security. She showed them a small device. This can break into the emergency broadcast system. One message to all worlds at once. Hope flared in Heiyun's chest. How soon can it be ready? A few days, Min replied. But we'll need access to a main communications hub. Junho frowned. The nearest one is heavily guarded. I'll go, Heiyun said firmly. The guards will recognize me. It's too dangerous, Teo protested. Heiyun looked at him. Sometimes an empress must take risks for her people. She looked around at the humans who had sheltered her. For all her people. Someone at the back of the room began to clap slowly. Others joined in. Even Junho nodded with new respect. That night, as plans were made for the mission, Heiyun realized something important. For the first time, she felt like a true empress. Dawn broke over the hills of Yang 3 as a small transport ship rose into the sky. Inside sat Heiyun, Teo, Su-min, Junho, and Min. They wore the plain uniforms of Imperial maintenance workers. Only Heiyun wore her royal robes. Remember the plan, Junho said as they approached the communications hub, a tall tower surrounded by smaller buildings. We have one chance. The hub was indeed heavily guarded, but as their ship approached, Heiyun moved to the front window where the guards could see her. Imperial transport requesting emergency landing, Teo said into the comm. We have found the Empress. The guards were confused, but couldn't ignore an Imperial ship with the Empress clearly visible inside. They allowed the ship to land in the main yard. When the doors opened, Heiyun stepped out first, head held high. Guards rushed forward, then dropped to one knee when they recognized her. Your Imperial Majesty, the lead guard said. We were told you were kidnapped by terrorists. I escaped, Heiyun said firmly. Take me to the command center immediately. I must send an emergency message to the capital. The guards obeyed without question, escorting Heiyun and her rescuers into the main building. Junho had been right. No one looked closely at maintenance workers, especially when the Empress herself commanded attention. Inside the command center, technicians jumped to their feet in surprise. Heiyun used her most imperial voice. Clear the room. This is a direct order from your Empress. The technicians hesitated, looking at their supervisor. Now, Heiyun demanded. They scrambled to obey. As soon as they left, Min rushed to the main console. I need 5 minutes, she said, connecting her device. The guards will check on us soon, Junho warned, watching the door. Then we work fast, Su-min replied, helping Min. Heiyun stood before a camera. What should I say? She asked Teo. How do I make people believe me? Teo looked at her with gentle eyes. Speak from your heart. Tell the truth as you learned it. A moment later, Min called out, Ready. You're broadcasting to every screen in the Empire. He-Yun took a deep breath as the red light on the camera turned on. People of the Celestial Empire, she began. I am Empress He-Yun. You may have heard that I was kidnapped by human terrorists. This is a lie told by Lord Regent Du-Yun and the Imperial Council. They are the true criminals. She spoke clearly, telling the Empire about the Council's betrayal, her mother's murder, and the truth about Earth's conquest. She told them about the human labor camps and unfair treatment. As she spoke, she felt stronger, more certain. I have seen with my own eyes how humans have been mistreated in my name. This ends today. I call upon all loyal Imperial forces to arrest Lord Regent Du-Yun and the Council members for treason. Suddenly, alarms blared through the building. The door to the command center burst open. Security Director Jai-Ho stood there with a squad of soldiers. Cut the broadcast, he ordered. Min tried to block the console, but a soldier pushed her aside. The broadcast continued. Jai-Ho's men didn't know how to stop Min's device. Arrest them all, Jai-Ho commanded, his eyes fixed on He-Yun with cold anger. The Empress is clearly unwell and has been influenced by human propaganda. The soldiers moved forward. Ta-O and Jun-Ho stepped in front of He-Yun, but they were outnumbered. Stop, a new voice called. A tall officer pushed through the soldiers. Admiral Yun, Jai-Ho said, surprised. What are you doing here? Admiral Yun looked at He-Yun, then back at Jai-Ho. I received the broadcast. I came to see for myself. He studied He-Yun carefully. Is what you said true, Your Majesty? About your mother? Every word, He-Yun replied. Check the royal archives. The proof is there. Admiral Yun was silent for a moment. Then he turned to his own soldiers who had followed him in. Arrest Director Jai-Ho for treason against the Empress. Jai-Ho's face twisted with rage. This is madness. She's just a child under human influence. As the soldiers surrounded Jai-Ho, he suddenly pulled a small weapon from his sleeve and aimed at He-Yun. For the true Empire, he shouted. Tao moved without thinking, throwing himself in front of He-Yun as Jai-Ho fired. The blast hit him in the chest. He fell to the floor as Admiral Yun's soldiers tackled Jai-Ho. Tao, He-Yun cried, dropping to her knees beside him. Blood spread across his uniform. Are you all right? Tao asked weakly. Yes, He-Yun whispered, tears falling. Because of you. His eyes fluttered closed as medical personnel rushed in. 3 days passed. He-Yun barely left the medical bay where Tao lay recovering. The doctors said he would live, but he remained weak. The blast had missed his heart by only a few centimeters. Throughout the Empire, He-Yun's broadcast had created exactly what the Council had feared: change. Admiral Yun's ships had secured the capital. Lord Regent Du-Yun and the loyal council members were arrested. Many Imperial commanders had seen the broadcast and sided with the young Empress. On the 4th day, Tao finally opened his eyes properly. He found He-Yun asleep in a chair beside his bed, her head resting on her arms. He reached out weakly to touch her hand. He-Yun woke immediately. Tao, you're awake. His voice was rough. What happened? After Admiral Yun arrested Jai-Ho, more than half the Imperial fleet has declared loyalty to me. She smiled. The council has fallen. Tao tried to sit up but winced in pain. You did it. We did it. He-Yun corrected him. And there's much more to do. A week later, when Tao could walk again, they boarded Admiral Yun's flagship for the return to the capital. He-Yun insisted that Tao, Su-Min, and the other resistance members travel with her. Jun-Ho had been skeptical. You're returning to the palace, he'd said. How do we know things will really change? Because I will be beside her, Tao had answered before He-Yun could speak. We all will. Now, as the Imperial capital came into view, He-Yun stood on the ship's observation deck with Tao and Admiral Yun. There will be resistance to your changes, the Admiral warned. Many still believe humans should know their place. Then we will show them a new place, Heian replied. One where all species stand equal. When they landed at the palace, large crowds had gathered. Some cheered for the return of their Empress. Others looked uncertain, especially when they saw humans walking beside her. In the grand throne room, Heian faced the remaining officials and nobles. Many looked uncomfortable as she took her seat with Tao and other humans standing nearby. The empire will change, Heian announced. No more will humans or any other species be treated as less than others. No more will lies be taught as history. She looked at the uncomfortable faces before her. Those who cannot accept this may leave imperial service now. Some did leave. Others stayed, curious or hopeful about what might come. Later that day, Heian walked in the imperial gardens where she had first met Tao. He joined her there, moving carefully due to his healing wound. "What will you do now?" he asked. "The empire is yours to shape. First, I will tell the truth about Earth. Then we will open the old human schools and universities that were closed, and the labor camps will become free communities." She looked at him. "But I need help. I need advisors who know what life is really like for humans." Tao smiled. "Su-min would be good. And Jun-ho, though he might argue with you too much." "And you?" Heian asked softly. Tao looked surprised. "Me? I'm just an engineer. You're the one who showed me the truth, who saved my life." Heian took his hand. "I need you beside me, Tao." The next morning, Heian addressed her empire again. This time, she did not speak from the traditional imperial podium, but stood in the palace courtyard, with people of all species gathered around her. Tao stood at her right hand, wearing new robes marking him as the Imperial Human Affairs Advisor. "Today marks a new beginning," Heian said. "For generations, the Empire has wasted the talents and strengths of humans through fear and prejudice. No more. From this day forward, all citizens are equal under imperial law." She turned to look at Tao, who smiled at her with pride and something more. Something that, for now, they kept private but both felt growing stronger each day. Together, Heian continued, "We will build an empire where no one is forbidden from reaching their full potential, where no friendship or bond is forbidden, where all of us, human and non-human alike, can look to the stars not with fear but with hope." As the crowd cheered, Heian thought of her mother. She had died trying to change the empire. Now her daughter would finish what she started. With Tao beside her, her once forbidden companion, now her most trusted advisor, and perhaps someday more, Heian faced a future bright with possibility. The empire would never be the same again. And that was exactly as it should be.